whatever goals that you may have and whatever you're pursuing right now, doing what you can when you can do it is good enough. And it's okay to go at your own pace, especially today in this online world with hustle culture and work harder or else you'll fail. It can be hard to find balance. And if you're somebody that has ambitions, but maybe you're struggling with burnout or even getting started, I hope this video resonates. I'm Travis, and I've been helping people build physical and mental strength for the past 10 years as a personal trainer and physical therapist. But my passion has always been the mind-body connection. I think when it comes to not only the pursuit of your goals, but even more simply, even starting, I think a fear that holds people back is an idea that everything has to be perfect, or they have to have everything figured out before they even start. And I came across this idea recently that really resonated, and it was by a British psychoanalyst and pediatrician. And in the 1950s, he coined the term the good enough parent or the good enough mother, because in his work, he noticed that the parents that he was working with and the children that were his patients, they were suffering from this, essentially this pedestal that they were not necessarily putting themselves on, but putting their idea of being a good parent and holding themselves to this standard that is something that nobody can relate to. Nobody's going to be the perfect parent, and kids don't even want the perfect parent. They just need somebody who is supportive, well-intentioned, responsive to their needs, and even when the parent has to discipline them at times or is grumpy at times and may have to have negative consequences and enforce those negative consequences, again, that's all a kid really needs. They don't need a superhero. And I don't even know if that would even be good for them, because it's important to have these ups and downs in life and not have everything handed to you. But again, this idea of just being good enough is all it takes. And that in itself is admirable, because for people that have their own family, but also have a career, have their own personal life, there are so many things that you have to take care of on a daily basis. And being able to accomplish all those tasks and still be able to show up for your kid and show up for yourself is very impressive. And that on its own deserves a reward. And so whenever it is that you're working towards, whatever goals that you have, the same idea applies. I mean, you may have a family and have a job and have a personal life, and all of these things that you have to put a lot of effort and attention into. And even using the term good enough is not to accept being mediocre or putting forth half effort. In reality, it's the exact opposite. It is in response to all those things that I mentioned before that you're still showing up and you're still putting the work in and you're doing something, because it's better than nothing. And as I'll go into on the next topic, there is a time when you need to work hard and there's a time when you should pull back. Knowing the difference is important, but even when you feel like you have nothing left or you don't have a whole lot of effort or attention and energy to put forth to something, even just showing up is good enough. And it still is something that is going to move the needle in the direction of your desired outcome. And so when you think about the longevity component of anything that you do, what's most important is that you stay in the game long enough to win. Not that you work really hard in the first quarter or you are however many points up in the first quarter. There are 4 quarters. And you have to play well through all of them. And so burning out halfway through doesn't help you either. And like I've said this before, this is true in fitness especially, but it's also true in life, which is the only way that you fail is if you quit. And so by just showing up, you're giving yourself an opportunity to keep progressing and moving forward. But we do ourselves a disservice when we always tell ourselves that we should be doing more. We should be doing more, as if we're not doing enough already in life. And there's a quote from Peter Crone that I feel like fits perfectly in this situation. And he says, "Please don't ever be perfect because you'll have no one to relate to." Which implies that 20% of the tasks that you can perform or anything that you need to do related to your goal is going to result in 80% of the results that you see. And this is good because when you do have times or days that you're feeling a little tired or you don't have a whole lot of energy to exert towards whatever it is that you're working on, being able to analyze next what it is that you need to think about using the 80-20 rule to get what you want out of life or your fitness or whatever the case may be. There's really a few things that are going to move the needle the most. And so just picking one then is going to be better and good enough than trying to do everything all at once and potentially burning yourself out or making you feel like you have to do all these things all the time to get the results that you want, because it's not the case. I mean, I like using the list exercise, which I do all the time for myself, and I do with people that I'm working with also, which is write down 10 things. And sometimes you have to work really hard to come up with 10 things, but that's part of the exercise. Come up with 10 things that if you did them every day, you would move closer to your goal. They will always have a positive effect on moving you forward. Now, after you've worked hard to get 10 things, no matter how long it takes, then I want you to break it down into the top 5. And then analyzing those top 5, break it down one more time into 3. Out of those 3, which one would create the most improvement? If you just did that one thing and you didn't do anything else, it'll move the needle and you'll see progression. Once you find that one thing, don't worry about anything else. Only focus on that one thing. But when you have time, or when you have a good day, or you have a lot of energy, and you have the mental bandwidth to put forth more effort that day, and you feel motivated and it feels good, then work on the other 2. So then you can get all 3. And that day is a bonus. Other than that, just getting the one is good enough. And that way you don't have to feel like there's any self-blame or victimizing yourself for not trying hard enough or not doing enough of what you should be doing to reach the goals, because it's not necessary. Now, that might be counterintuitive to a lot of what other people say and what other people believe, but at the end of the day, I'm more thinking about what's the lifestyle that you're creating along the way. Is it full of stress and anxiety and self-blame, all in the pursuit of a goal? At that point, how fulfilling is the goal when you've gotten there? And really, what was it all for? I know it's great to have ambition, and having ambition has served my life really well. And I've gotten to the point where I am now because of my ambition. But I've also learned from my own path of what the cost of ambition is and was for me. And that's why now I have this perspective of not only where are you going, but what are you creating along the way? And it makes me think of a quote from Jim Rohn, who says, if you're at the beach, be at the beach. And if you're at the office, be at the office. But don't mix the two. Don't be at the office when you're at the beach, and don't be at the beach when you're at the office. And really what that always means to me is that there's a time and a place to push and work hard. There's a time and a place to balance and relax. And so having an understanding or an awareness of what your needs are in the moment and going forward can help you balance the two along the way even better, rather than going back to the example of having been at the office for an entire year and never giving yourself that break of being at the beach metaphorically. I think it's important to give yourself these little beach days along the way. So that way, the office days are much more productive when you get back to them. And the beach days are that much more productive as well because you've actually relaxed, you've rejuvenated, you've given yourself time to mentally get back into it. Because in a lot of ways, we get our best ideas when we're relaxed. Like when people talk about taking walks or taking showers and they get these ideas, those are at times of rest when we allow our brain and our minds to slow down a little bit and receive some of these downloads, because we're not hyperactive and overactive and stressing ourselves out and getting in the way of some of that intuitive process that naturally goes on if we allow it to take place. Along this process, there's going to be ups and downs, which is understandable. You can't avoid it. It's going to happen. And so with that in mind, ride the wave when you can. When you have a burst of energy and motivation, take it as far as you can. And I always remember driving through California when I lived there. One of the things I enjoyed the most was driving along the coast, PCH, even around Hermosa, Redondo Beach, and seeing all the surfers out in the water. Especially for me, I was not very good at any of that, and I tried, and it was terrible. So admiring everybody else do something that to me was extremely hard and something I didn't give enough time to learn. But one, how peaceful it was for them, right? You could only imagine. But even me watching, I could just understand how nice that must be to just sit out in the water and float along and wait for your opportunity, because they're not chasing every wave. They're waiting for the right one. And when the right one comes and they pick the one that they want, that's when they start working really hard and pedaling and swimming and kicking their feet and jumping up on the board. And then once they catch the wave, they ride it as far as they can. And then when it's over, they slowly make their way back, even though they're still working. They're still exerting effort and energy to get back to the position where they can catch the next one. And until then, they're just hanging out on their board, floating around on the water, enjoying the moment, waiting for the next one to come. And I feel like naturally our motivation comes in waves the same way. And there will be times where everything feels effortless. And that's when you're on the board. And that's when the wave is just carrying you, because you don't have to do anything anymore. You just have to stand there and stay upright. And again, take it as far as you can. But then there are other times when it seems like no matter how hard you paddle, and doesn't seem like anything that you do is working or catching the wave. And maybe the waves just aren't that great that day. And so all the conditions are working against you. But going along the theme of this whole video, just being out there, just trying is good enough. And again, as a metaphorical example to the greater idea that we're talking about, which is when the opportunity strikes, ride the wave as long as you can. And I hope these ideas have helped and resonated. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. And if you have any other suggestions or things that you want to share, that you can email me in the description. And until then, I'll see you in the next video.